I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, April the 2nd, 2013. Several rockets were fired from Gaza into Israel today. One rocket crossed the border fence with Gaza and landed in Israeli territory in an open field in the Eshkol Regional Council. The second fell short and landed in Gazan territory. No injuries were reported. And this evening, a rocket landed in northern Israel in the Golan Heights, thought to be errant fire from Syria. The IDF was searching the area and no damage or injuries were reported there. As you may have seen on IBA News, Israel's Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon earlier today addressed recent spillover of the Syrian conflict across the border into Israel's Golan Heights. He said Israel has no intention to interfere in the ongoing Syrian civil war, adding, when the war damages our interests, we'll respond. And Israel police reported that remains of a rocket were discovered in an empty preschool in Sderot today. According to estimates, the rocket was likely fell on the school, along with several other rockets that were fired into southern Israel on March the 21st, during President Obama's recent visit. But that the remains were not previously found because the preschool had been closed for the Passover holiday. The rocket went through the roof of Margalit's preschool in Sderot and partially exploded. Police sappers were on the scene to safely dispose of the rocket's remains. The school is scheduled to reopen tomorrow. A member of the Palestinian Security Forces was convicted of murder today at a military court in Israel. The Ofer-based Marshal Court convicted Wael al-Araja, a member of the Palestinian Security Forces from Khalkhul, for the murder of Asher Palmer, who was a U.S. citizen, and his infant son Yonatan in September of 2011. Al-Araja was throwing stones from a moving car along Route 60 near Kiryat Arba towards Palmer's car, causing it to flip over, killing the father and son. The Jerusalem Post had reported that since Palmer was an American citizen, U.S. State Department representatives were reportedly present during some of the hearings and were monitoring the trial. The judges on the Palmer case noted in their decision today that there had been no precedent in a similar case, a murder conviction related to a stone-throwing incident, since the 1980s. Last night in Israel, many citizens across the country marked the end of the Passover holiday with the traditional Moroccan Jewish celebration of Mimuna, where fried dough delicacies are the staple to signify the end of the Passover restriction on chametz, or leavened bread. Ynet reports that Muawiyah Kaba was the honored guest at one such Mimuna held in the Jewish settlement of Yakir in the West Bank. Kaba is an Arab. He is also a paramedic for Magen David Adom and credited for saving the life of Yakir resident Adele Biton. Adele is 3 years old. She was critically injured in a stoning attack on her family car near Ariel in the West Bank several weeks ago. And it is most likely she would not have survived without the quick aid she received from Kaba, who was not on shift at the time but rushed to the scene to help. Yakir resident Aaron Cohen blessed Kaba and said, "We dedicate this event to the recovery of Adele and to Muawiyah, who saved her, and who we hope will save many more lives." After the celebration in Yakir, Kaba went to the Schneider Children's Medical Center to visit the parents of Adele, who remains hospitalized in critical condition with a severe head injury, but she is beginning to show some small improvements. Israel's new Economics and Trade Minister Naftali Bennett presented the government's new Equalizing the Burden legislation today, a proposal for a new draft plan regarding the sharing of the military burden in Israel, with regard in particular to Haredim, or ultra-Orthodox. Up until last year, the Tal law in Israel largely provided exemption for the ultra-Orthodox, but the law dissolved last year, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he would formulate a new bill that would guarantee a more equal sharing of the military service burden of all parts of Israeli society. According to Bennett's new plan, ultra-Orthodox men would be able to postpone their national service for 3 years, during which they would still receive state funding for Torah study. Following those 3 years, only 1,800 would then receive exemptions from national service and continue to be funded for study. That's out of the 7,000 ultra-Orthodox designated for military service every year. The remaining Haredim would be obligated to choose between IDF service or civil service. The plan still has to pass in the Israeli Knesset. Bennett estimates that it will go through in the next 4 months. The Jewish National Fund, together with B'nai B'rith World Center, will hold a ceremony in Israel next week in commemoration of those Jews who rescued fellow Jews during the Holocaust. The ceremony will take place on Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day, April the 8th, and will honor Otto Kamali, president of the Zionist Federation in Hungary, who saved thousands of Jewish children through the establishment of a network of 52 shelters under the protection of the Red Cross. He also oversaw the rescue of 5,000 Jewish children and the aliyah, or immigration to Israel, of approximately 15,000 Hungarian Jews by way of Romania during the war. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, April the 2nd, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader.